The boy my father had banned from our house for 2 years was the only reason my little brother is still breathing, and Dad found out the same night he caught us holding hands in a hospital waiting room. My parents had one unbreakable law, printed in my mother's neat handwriting, on the rules board in our kitchen. Absolutely no relationships until university. It sat right under, no screens after 9. I was 17, and the only senior I knew who'd never been asked to a single dance because my parents would have found a way to end it. Boys are a distraction from your future, my mother said anytime a name came up twice. My father had a whole speech about how a girlfriend in high school cost him a scholarship, and I never had the nerve to point out he met my mother at the very school he claimed she ruined his shot at. The surveillance was the worst part. They read my texts every night. They called other parents to confirm study sessions. Once they pulled me out of a friend's birthday because a boy showed up in the background of a story someone posted. I was forever the girl who left early, who couldn't go to the mall with the group, who made excuses. But my mother only ever saw the report card. Top of her class because she's not boy crazy. She'd tell her friends, proud as anything, which is exactly how I ended up with a boyfriend they never detected. Mateo sat beside me in our after-school robotics club. It began innocently. He asked me to help him debug a sensor, and we started staying late on Mondays and Wednesdays. True, allowed, parent approved. What I left out was how he saved me the good soldering station, how he brought 2 coffees every time without asking, how we shared 1 pair of earbuds while we worked. Our first kiss happened in the supply closet between the spare motors and the wire spools. He'd been untangling a cable and looked up and said, "Some connections you don't have to force." My heart nearly stopped. After that, every meeting was a careful performance. He'd write equations on my wrist. I'd fix his collar to have an excuse to touch him. We mastered holding hands under the workbench. 10 months, and my parents suspected nothing. They actually liked him, because my engineering grade jumped from solid to flawless. So I nearly dropped my fork when my mother announced one morning, "Invite your robotics partner to your brother's birthday dinner. Good influences are worth keeping." I said, "Are you sure?" And she said the table was set for 6 anyway. That Saturday, Mateo met us at a steakhouse. He shook my father's hand, pulled out my mother's chair, asked my dad smart questions about his job. Under the table, his knee rested against mine. A small private signal that we weren't alone in this. Everything was fine through the appetizers. Then, during the main course, my 9-year-old brother Sam went quiet. He'd been chattering nonstop, and suddenly he wasn't. He clutched at his throat, eyes wide and watering, no sound coming out. My mother thought he was being dramatic. My father told him to stop playing around. Mateo was already out of his chair. He's choking. He can't breathe. He got behind Sam, wrapped his arms below the ribcage, and gave 1 sharp upward thrust, then another. On the third, a chunk of steak shot onto the plate, and Sam dragged in a huge, ragged, beautiful breath. The whole restaurant had gone silent. My mother was sobbing. My father just stood there, white as the tablecloth. In the chaos afterward, we ended up in the ER waiting room so a doctor could check Sam's throat, and Mateo and I sat side by side, and somewhere in the middle of it all, my hand found his and stayed there. My father saw. He didn't say a word. 3 days later, my mother asked Mateo and me to sit down. "The way you moved," she said quietly, "you knew exactly what to do." Mateo explained his little cousin had nearly choked years ago, and he'd learned the Heimlich and kept refreshing it ever since. "And the nurse," my mother went on, "called you Sam's sister's boyfriend. Neither of you corrected her." We froze. She reached across and took my hand. "We're not stupid. Stubborn maybe, but not stupid. You've been lighter this year." We told ourselves we didn't notice. My father cleared his throat and looked at Mateo. "Thank you for my son." The next week, Mateo came to dinner as my boyfriend. The rule came off the fridge for good.